Hey guys, what's going on? Just to let y'all know, this review is going to be a complete spoiler of the movie Suicide Squad. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go see that, and then you may want to check out our non-spoiler free review as well. But just make sure, just so you'll know, this is a complete warning, okay? So,
one more time, there's a spoiler-filled review.
Yeah, watch at your own risk.
I did see this movie again for the second time with my parents, and I don't feel as harshly as I did when we made the first review, but I still feel like it was just a bad movie. It was entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. It was definitely more entertaining the second time watching it, but it was still just a poorly put together movie.
And just so y'all know, this is, he pretty much what he said. This is coming from two people who didn't like this movie. I gave it a D. He gave it a D-. So just so you let y'all know that. This movie begins with it's showing Deadshot and how he's in jail right now. Yeah. And I was thinking it has Heart of the Rising Sun playing. And then it also switches off after that to Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and a completely different song. I don't know what the name of the song is, but it's a completely different feel from the first scene. My friend gave me this link where it showed all the deleted scenes that they were going to put in the movie. But for whatever reason, I guess WB felt like it wasn't going to make for a fun movie. But they decided to take a whole bunch of scenes out of the movie that I feel like if they would have kept those scenes in there, it would have made for a much better and more cohesive story. Why I bring it up is because at the beginning of the movie, they were originally going to have Enchantress's backstory at the beginning of the movie. And it wasn't going to be a flashback or anything. It was going to be like it was actually happening. It wasn't going to be like someone telling the story. It was going to be her. It was going to be June Moon going to the tomb where she finds the spirit of the Enchantress, and she was going to be haunted by these nightmares and dreams that she's having of this random girl that all she knows is the name Enchantress. So she's been having these nightmares for several years. So she decides to go to this tomb, and that's where she gets all the powers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you're going to make her the sole villain of the movie, then you need to explain who she is. Like whenever they had her first breaking out, getting loose, introducing her brother and all that, I was like, what the heck? Who is all this? What are they? And
yeah.
If they would have explained that in the beginning of the movie instead of having a 10-second introduction the way they did in the actual movie, then it would have made a lot more sense later on when she became the actual villain of the movie.
I mean, they had longer introductions for some of the I don't know what you call them, the main villains of the movie, right, I guess you could say. And a lot of those characters were characters, and it's not so much that they didn't have to explain who they were, but they could have done it in a more smoother manner, which they've done with, I've seen lots of movies do, a much smoother manner. But what they did was they introduced these characters by, you had Viola Davis's character, which I can't remember her name right now.
Amanda Waller.
Yeah, Amanda Waller, that's right. She met up with this guy and telling him about all the villains they had.
Yeah, which I didn't even like the way they did that. It was so cheesy.
And they introduced them all by like having up all their name and all the stats below, and it was just really cheesy the way they did that. And the only ones that actually made sense to show those scenes was Deadshot's character, Harley Quinn's, and Enchantress's.
So Enchantress's was the main one that they needed to.
Yeah. And you had Deadshot, which Deadshot was the only one that they actually went slightly into depth in.
Yeah, no. Like even Harley Quinn and the Joker, they tried to make it deep, but they didn't even show a transformation between Harley Quinzel into Harley Quinn. They just went like snap and she's turned insane and gone to Harley Quinn. We didn't even get to see her as a normal person except for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So like there's no gradual fall into insanity that she has. It just happened automatically.
Yeah. And you also have to think about Deadshot, and whenever he is actually you see him with Batman, and he beats him almost so easily.
Right, yeah, no.
You know, it doesn't make Batman seem like this great of a character. He maybe goes up to him for maybe like just a few seconds, and Deadshot already has a gun on him.
Right.
And it's so easily done. Well, how is Batman still alive right now?
Right, yeah.
You know, and the only reason why he lives is because his daughter stops him from killing Batman.
Right.
You know, and his daughter plays a pretty big role. I mean, like, she's not a big role in it, but her relationship to the father has a pretty big role in this movie. I think even though she didn't say much, I felt like she wasn't that great of an actress either.
I like the idea. Like, I felt that they actually tried to give Deadshot a backstory and actually make him sympathetic, which they didn't really do for any of the other characters. But Will Smith and I don't know the actress's name that played his daughter, but they didn't really have like good chemistry with each other. They didn't feel like father and daughter. They felt like just two actors in the movie.
Yeah, they really should have went a lot more in depth with that. There's a scene whenever they're showing, they don't really even show it, the torture that Joker puts her Harleen Quinzel through, and you know it's happening because if you know anything about the comics or anything, that you know he's putting her through torture, but they don't show it at all.
I actually read one of the deleted scenes that they had was that whenever the Joker is actually like shocking her, which they showed briefly in the movie, that at the beginning of that she's pleading for him to let her go, but then like after a while she like actually starts like liking it, and she starts asking for more like pain and pleasure. So I felt that would have been a nice transition into her actually going crazy instead of her like begging for it at the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think the problem with it is there's so many reshoots, and the reason why you have these reshoots is because Batman versus Superman was so dark, and I guess that people didn't like that or something.
I guess.
You know, and so you take out all these parts that actually would make the story more cohesive, have more depth into it, and more explanation for everything, and it just takes away everything from the movie when you take away these dark scenes they already had.
Right.
And especially with Enchantress, because, like you said, she had dreams, which I figured those would be a little creepy, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, having dreams about Enchantress, maybe it was a little too dark or something for, I don't know, for viewers or some crap, I don't know. And so, it takes away so much depth from this character. And even speaking of Enchantress, with the 10 seconds that they showed her, her backstory, she walks into this cave, okay? She's an archaeologist, okay? And archaeologists, one thing they're going to do is they're going to kind of go in there and be careful with what they find.
Right.
Okay? But she goes in there and she grabs a little statue and literally just breaks it in half. like she just did it on purpose. Like, okay, there you go. And that's how she gets possessed or whatever by Enchantress. And it doesn't make any sense. And I was talking to someone a while ago, and she said that maybe she was put into a trance by the statue. And even that, I mean, if that was true, sure, that would be fine with me. But they didn't show anything like that. They didn't like zoom into her eyes and show her that she was in a trance. And I know it might have been a little cheesy. I think that would have been a better idea. And I was thinking maybe they could have had her tripping and falling, which you know, it would have been a little cheesier. But it still would have made more sense than her just getting it and cracking it open.
Yeah, I feel like the villain was definitely one of the biggest flaws of this movie. Not only her backstory not being explained at all and not making any sense, but also the way she looked at the beginning of the movie. She actually looked creepy. I actually really liked the way she looked in the beginning of the movie, especially when she first actually transformed into Enchantress in front of the government people. But once she starts becoming in power with her and her brother, they like decided to go completely a different route. I know they're trying to make it look like Egyptian, whatever, goddess, whatever.
Yeah.
But she just looked like a giant CGI monster that was like hula dancing all around and just made it look really cheesy.
Yeah, exactly.
And her voice was just not threatening at all. They tried to make it sort of scary, but like have her like a deeper voice, but it just did not. Not work well.
And if we go into everything, if we go into more about her, and then you have her and Rick Flag. And they actually were together. They were boyfriend and girlfriend in the movie. Okay, but they didn't do a lot of depth with that either. They kind of just talked about it during the introduction when they're introducing all the characters.
Right.
They didn't really do that well either. And they barely showed. I think they showed them maybe sitting together or something like that. But they didn't do any depth to that relationship.
And in another one of the deleted scenes I was talking about, or that I read, they actually were gonna add more scenes between Dr. Moon and Rick Flag, like have them going on dates and spending more time together. But in the movie, they showed a couple of scenes of them caring for each other, but it wasn't enough for you to feel like an actual emotional connection between these two characters, especially when one is the sole villain of the movie. Well, not sole, because her and her brother, but the actual villain of the movie, and have them feeling connection. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, and then you had the horribly done strip club scene with Harley Quinn and Joker. And I can't remember what happened. I can't even fully remember what happened in that scene.
It was a Joker and Harley Quinn with Common's character, just random character. I don't even remember the character's name. But I don't know what they were trying to go with that scene. I honestly was really disappointed with Jared Leto and his Joker. Like, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, but it's different. That means it's good. Just because it's different than Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson, it doesn't mean that's good.
Some people are even saying, oh, well, he had the mix of the best parts of Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson. I'm like, no, he didn't.
I know. Like, I will admit, the Joker wasn't in the movie enough for me to form my full opinion on how I feel about his character. But from the few scenes he was in, it was just, I know I can't compare the two at all, but just for example, whenever Heath Ledger in the Dark Knight was on screen, I loved it. I couldn't stop smiling because his performance was so brilliant. When Jared Leto was as the Joker on screen, I couldn't, sometimes I just want to look away because it was just so cringy, the way he acted at some parts. I've gotten used to his look. At first, I didn't like his look, but I got used to it. So it's not really the look. Although I didn't like all the chains they kept putting on him. But, his acting was just so, forced. He tried so hard to be creepy, to be cool, but it just didn't work, at all.
And basically the entire first half of this movie is just this huge mess. Right. The whole movie is a mess, basically, but especially the first half. The first half, I felt like they, reshot these scenes, oh, crap, we barely have any time to put this out, and they, edited it really fast. Right. And they actually put scenes in the wrong place. I felt like there was all over the place.
I have heard that they cut a lot of Joker scenes. I've heard Jared Leto express his feelings about it, and that he even said that they even filmed enough Joker footage for there to be a solo Joker movie. So I don't know why. I understand that they're trying to not have the movie focus on the Joker, because the movie's about Suicide Squad. It's about them showing these lesser-known villains. But at the same time, if you're going to hype the Joker character up in all the trailers and all the official photos you release to the public, at least have them for more than 8 minutes of the movie. Especially when I've read some of these deleted scenes. Some of the scenes actually feel impactful to the story that they're having. Especially between Harley Quinn and the Joker, their relationship in earlier cuts was actually going to be more abusive, which I know that it's probably against what today's culture is all about. But that's how they were in the comics. That's who the characters are. That's what makes them so complex.
And I hate to tell everybody this, but these are not good people.
Exactly.
Okay? They're not gonna. If a bad guy. You need to expect someone like the Joker to be abusive, you know? Because the thing is, in the comics, the comics, they have a really complex relationship. They have extremely complex, because nobody really knows whether or not the Joker actually loves Harley Quinn.
Right, or just using her.
Yeah, or just using her. Nobody actually knows. It's really hard to... You can tell that he's a jealous guy, because if someone tries to do something with Harley, he'll get mad. Right. But you don't really know if he's in love with her.
Yeah, and he's even tried to kill her in some scenes, or some comic book stories, and even in the animated series, he even pushed out a freaking window to kill her. So and in the Suicide Squad, and one of the deleted scenes that they had was whenever the helicopter that they're in gets shot down, is originally going to be that the Joker pushes her out to kill her, and then the helicopter gets shot down. But it was changed for whatever reason to the helicopter being shot down first, and then the Joker pushing out to save her, which is completely a different route, which I don't know why. It was they tried to make their romance so lovey-dovey and so cheesy that at times it just felt like, this is... I know you can't fully go off the comics. I get that. I get they're trying to make their own view of how the characters should be, but when you take away the complexity of the character, it just doesn't mesh right. It's like taking away Batman being Bruce Wayne, hiding his secret identity as being this big public figure. It's like taking away that whole complex side of the story and just having a public figure being Batman to the public.
Yeah, and then you go on a little bit further and you have the scenes where they're rounding up all the characters. And the reason why they're rounding up the characters is because Enchantress is now taking over. She is now taking full possession of Dr. Moon, right? Yeah. But the thing is, the one thing I hated is they had the heart. They had this heart, okay? And this heart, they said that this was Enchantress's heart, and if they had it, they had full control over Enchantress,
right.
Okay? And the way that the way that it kind of throws off everything is that the Dr. Moon just talks in her sleep and says Enchantress in her sleep, and I'm like, what? I'm like, that doesn't seem like anything, and it doesn't seem like they have power over her at all with that heart, because she just goes off the rails of anything. And the thing is they have this heart that can kill Enchantress.
Right.
They have it for more than half the movie. Enchantress gets it later on, but for more than half the movie, they have the heart.
Right.
Okay? Enchantress is about to destroy the world. And they do nothing. They keep that heart in that case. They don't destroy the heart, which could end the entire movie. You know? They keep it and don't do anything, you know?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense at all. And, I mean, and then, like I was saying a while ago, you had the scene where they're rounding up all the characters, which for a while I was thinking that was an okay scene, but I started realizing that's not really that hard to do, have a scene where you're rounding up characters, right, rounding up all the villains, you know? And then they try to add some comedy even in that scene, and they already try to show the introduction of all these characters, and then they just throw in another character randomly. They throw in like two characters.
Yes, they randomly threw in the Slipknot character, which all they even said that he could do was he could climb anything. Like, what kind of freaking power is that? Like, he felt like just a character to throw in so they could kill off with the little explosives in their neck. It's like, oh, we gotta have them. We gotta actually show them doing that in the movie.
Yeah.
So let's throw in a character and not give any backstory to them, and just show them killing them with the neck explosive. Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I keep on forgetting these characters' names. There was Katana. Yeah, they had her, and they randomly threw her in there too. It was they never talked about her ever.
Yeah. And they went into a random flashback with no like backstory on what the flashback is.
Yeah.
It's like they try to tell the story within the 10-second flashback that they had, and it's like, what? They try to make a connection, or have the audience feel a connection to Katana by having her husband be murdered by some people. They didn't really fully go in depth with it, but they had her have a scene towards the end of the movie. And it's like the only time that she even has any kind of character development is when she's like crying to the sword because she's talking to the soul of her dead husband. But it's like no connection because we don't know anything about her husband. I mean, I guess it's sort of sad that her husband was killed, but there's no like story or anything.
Now we're off to them flying into the actual war zone or whatever.
Yeah, and first of all, the first thing I want to bring up about this whole part is there were like 0 civilians in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some were being turned into these zombie-like creatures, but even with all those creatures, I feel like there should be at least some civilians still walking around.
Yeah.
I know they try to have the explanation that there's a mass evacuation, but I call BS on that, because with a city that huge, you can't
and something happening that quickly.
Yeah, no, you can't have them evacuate that fast without a huge crowd, huge traffic, and everything.
Yeah,
that was just a ridiculous cop-out way to try to explain for that.
And even then, they didn't even have that many of those little monster things.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like there was one scene where there was a crap ton of them.
Yeah,
one scene
exactly.
And they beat them. They beat them and. After that, it was like maybe like 3 I didn't see very many after that at all.
Yeah, no.
And I mean that whenever you get to this part of the movie, that's whenever the movie becomes more cohesive. You know, it's still not good, but it's more cohesive than the first half. But after this, you know, we start getting to see people like Killer Croc more. which is one of the worst things we get to see, because in the very beginning of the movie, they actually, even though they didn't have Killer Croc that much, it was actually, you actually felt some kind of creepiness towards Killer Croc.
And then he opened his mouth.
Yes, yes, and that was the worst thing they could have possibly done with Killer Croc.
Yeah, Killer Croc is honestly one. I'm not saying he was the worst, but he's definitely close to being one of the worst.
Yeah.
Because worst characters I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Because literally every line he had in this movie was just something so cheesy and so cringeworthy. I just never want to see him in a movie ever again.
Yeah, and he barely said anything in the movie. He didn't have like a lot of lines.
Which is a good thing.
He didn't have a lot of lines, but I guess they made sure, like, hey, guys, every line that comes out of this guy's mouth, make sure it's something hilarious. And it turns out it's not. And, I mean, people in the theater were laughing, but I guess, I don't know. I don't understand it.
I guess it's just people who really want DC to be good. Which, I want DC to be good. Yeah. I like Man of Steel, and I love Batman vs Superman.
Yeah, don't think we're like some kind of freaking Marvel fanboys who are looking for DC to go downhill. Exactly. We actually like those two movies, and we were hoping to love this one.
Yeah, we even went dressed as Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah, you can see that in our interview, our non-spoiler review over this. But and they just didn't do it well. And we were reading the scenes they took out, and they talked about the Killer Croc and how there was a time whenever everybody thought he was made fun of all the time when he was younger because of how he looked.
Right.
And then one day he decided that he's going to think of himself as being beautiful.
Yeah.
You know? And that puts depth to that character and what he actually is. In a line that he says in the freaking movie, which is like, they're like sitting in the bar, which actually, I'm not going to lie, I really think my favorite scene in the entire movie is the bar scene. There's a lot of things he could have done with it. What I'm about to talk about right now actually is one of them. But they're like sitting back, and I can't remember. I think someone calls Killer Croc ugly. He's like, "No, I'm beautiful." And it's just
you forgot the shoddy part.
Oh yeah, he's like
shoddy.
No, shoddy, I'm beautiful. And it's just so I'm like, oh god, what was that crap? And I was like, oh goodness. And it was just so not good. Yeah. And another thing I didn't like about that bar scene, there's a scene whenever they were, there's a part of that bar scene where they are, Rick Flag comes in, you know, and he comes in and they kind of go a little more into depth with it. They kind of go a little bit, sadness, a little not darkness, a little sadness, a little more emotion with that character.
Right.
And then he feels...
Well, before, because I know what scene you're going to talk about, but before you say that, before the scene he's going to talk about, I realize that he's given up, like, they sort of failed the mission and everything, but he decides to smash the device that has the explosives in the villain's necks and like sets them free. So like even if they're able to destroy this villain and win, he just let free a whole horde of supervillains who are evil and who kill people and rob banks and everything. He just set them free because he gave up.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, and then, okay, so adding on to that, he begins to feel for these characters, especially Will Smith's character. He begins to feel for Deadshot especially. And he goes up to Deadshot and he tells him, hey, your daughter sends you letters in the mail, I think like every day or something like that. And he gives them to Will Smith, okay? And Will Smith looks at him. I thought he was angry. Yeah, no. I thought he was mad. I thought he was about to beat the crap out of Rick Flag.
He even said, "You've had these this whole time."
Yeah, he says that. He like says it so angry. I'm like, "Oh crap!" He's about to beat the crap out of Rick Flag. He's like, "I will help you destroy this." I'm like, "What? How does that motivate you to do that at all?"
Yeah, it made there's a lot of things in this movie that made no sense, and that was definitely one of them.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. And all these people have this thing implanted into their neck, all these villains, too. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about that. And what it does is if they try to escape, if they try to kill Rick Flag, if Rick Flag dies at all, or anything like that, they're going to kill one of those people, or all of them if Rick Flag dies. But if one of them escapes, they're going to kill that person by like pressing on his phone and exploding his neck. Yeah. And I think it's... Captain Boomerang and Slipknot. Well, Captain Boomerang goes up to Slipknot and says, "Hey, man, we need to try to escape." Okay, they say that really. Okay, first of all, I want just everybody to think about this for a second. They had just told them They had just told them, if you try to do any of this,
right.
Okay, even if they snuck away quietly, it's not like they wouldn't notice they were gone later on. Okay, right. And then they actually tried to escape. Captain Boomerang encourages Slipknot to escape, and they do this in the most noisiest way possible. They don't try at all to do this hidden. I think Captain Boomerang shoots at a freaking building and tries to escape that way, and then obviously they explode him, and they do this just because they want to know. Oh, these FBI agents aren't messing around. They ain't joking, But there's no way that could have worked out. I guess they could have done something where someone loses their temper or something, but it just doesn't work out. It's so this is so awful that it didn't make any sense to do that at all. A lot of this movie doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's time to bring up the character of Amanda Waller. I feel like they did decent with her character. They wanted to make her tough. They wanted to make her no BS kind of woman. But there's one scene in the movie where she's in a room full of FBI agents, and out of nowhere, she just goes and murders all of them. Every single one of these FBI agents. Yeah. They're not villains. They're not evil FBI agents. They're not like crooked people. They're just normal FBI agents. And the only reason they give us to why she killed these FBI agents was they didn't have clearance for what they're getting, or I think she didn't want them to know that was her idea to release Enchantress or something like that. But they never come back to that.
She kills him right in front of Rick Flag.
I know.
Rick Flag is standing right there, and
exactly.
And they never bring it up again.
And Deadshot.
You can tell that Rick Flag is slightly is against what she's doing.
Yeah.
But he doesn't ever talk about it after that. And then you get to the fight scene, the actual big part of this movie where they're actually fighting. Against Enchantress in that part, which is this huge extreme mess. Then there's another scene whenever they are, because what it is El Diablo is totally against violence, because what it is you find out that he killed his wife and his son, his kid, because I guess he was angry, and his anger made him just explode the entire freaking house, and it killed his family. And so he's totally against everything now. And you actually figure that out from the very beginning of the movie, is that he's against violence. He'll take anything. He doesn't care. He thinks he deserves horrible things to happen to him. But he doesn't want to use violence. And so all the characters are telling him, man, you gotta use your power. That would help us out a lot. And so I think Will Smith starts kind of yelling at him, trying to get him mad, trying to get him angry. He's like, I want you to show me something. He's like, you want to see something? And he just burns all these monsters down. And I feel like that also right there was not done very well at all.
I feel like if he really had his temper down throughout this entire movie to where he doesn't want to use his powers at all, what Deadshot actually did, I feel like it wasn't enough to actually make him lose control, lose temper. It wasn't it was just so forced, the way he just exploded out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then and so we're going off to now with a little bit further, and they're getting closer to the fight of the actual movie.
Yeah, which first of all, there's just a random comedic line that they had to have Boomerang say to Katana about how they should go to dinner, but I'm not gonna say too much about that because that's not that big of a deal. But first of all, the villain's plan just didn't make any sense. The villain was definitely one of my biggest complaints about this movie. Her plan, all they really said about her plan was that she wants to take back, because apparently her and her brother were once rulers of the world or whatever, and they want to become rulers of the world again and rule over the humans. But the only explanation of their plan that they gave us was that she wants to build a machine, and that machine apparently shoots up into the sky, shoots a beam into the sky, which is happening in a lot of superhero movies nowadays.
Wait, what it is?
But shoots a beam into the sky, and I guess she can shoot wherever she wants on Earth. She can shoot satellites and all these government bases, but somehow she can't shoot the freaking Suicide Squad that's standing right in front of her. Which I do know that they wanted to, the Enchantress's plan with Amanda Waller was to use her mind to figure out where these secret bases are, which is what I was explaining. She's able to shoot these secret government buildings through the mind because she knows where they are through Amanda Waller's mind. That's why they need Amanda, so she could figure out where all these human government buildings were, so she could explode them. But at the same time, you think that Amanda Waller, she had like tentacles freaking sticking out of her mind. Mm-hmm. You think that would definitely kill her.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the movie, she just walks out.
Yeah, and that's actually two characters in this movie. You have the Joker, who he's in a plane, he's in a helicopter that explodes, and I understand that Harley Quinn jumps out into this building. But once it hits the ground, there's no actual buildings that Joker could actually jump onto. Exactly. There's only that one low enough for Harley Quinn to have jumped out onto and live. And then you see it explode, and I have no idea what Joker did. All I know is that he's alive by the end of the movie and without a scratch on him.
Yeah, no scratch or bruises or burns. And which they actually, I remember before the movie came out, DC actually released an official picture of Jared Leto's Joker, like with his face half burnt. It wasn't like a set photo or anything. It was actually official release photo of Jared Leto's Joker with his face half burnt. And there was a deleted scene that I read that he was actually going to confront the Suicide Squad like towards the end of the movie with his face half burned and everything. And he's going to try to convince Harley to run away with him. But Harley, which this would, if they would have went the abusive route, this would have been a great scene. Like she decides to choose against the Joker, go away from him for once, so she could help her friends, help the Suicide Squad, for once stand up for herself. But they didn't even, they cut all that out, all that scenes, all that complexity. They just removed it out of the movie, and it's just I wish they would have kept it.
This movie makes me really angry, especially after I read those. Okay, so now we're going to go back to what we were talking about a while ago, which is the fight scene, which is one of the worst things in the movie. It was a terrible scene in the movie. You have Enchantress, okay, and she is going into everybody's mind and reminding them their past and what they think and what they want one of their past to be. You have Harley Quinn, and she's imagining her life with a normal Jared Leto. Yeah. You know, and I think
they have kids and everything. Yeah, they went to Deadshot's mind. He actually kills Batman,
and they go in all these people's mind, and nobody's able to get out of it. They all believe that this actually happened in their past. And Diablo, El Diablo, it's an imagination, and he sees that his family is still alive, and then he just snaps out of it. And he's like, none of this is real. Yeah. None of this is real. He didn't say it like that.
Yeah, but, he almost did, pretty much.
And he's just screaming, he's like, none of this is real, guys. And they're like, of course it's real. I remember it in my mind. Yeah. And the thing is, what's horribly stupid about this is it was so quick for El Diablo to get out of this.
And not even El Diablo. Once he figured out it's not real, it is so quick for everybody else to realize it's not real and to snap out of it like that. Okay, for one, it's dumb that they were able to snap out of it so quick because it diminishes Enchantress's powers. And two, Enchantress has them in this fantasy world where she could freaking kill them while they're distracted. Yeah. They literally, I don't know if it was right before, but they literally showed Enchantress shooting a freaking beam out of the sky, destroying satellites, destroying government buildings. But she couldn't kill these freaking 6 people who are even in fantasy world and
and so you get into that, and then you have what the Enchantress's brother. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember. I don't even care.
I don't care either. And I think El Diablo is I gotta fight this guy. I gotta fight this guy. Okay, and then you have also in that part you have another. Amazing line by Killer Croc where he's trying to go in the sewer because all the FBI agents are trying to go in the sewer.
You're just tourists.
Yeah. and then El Diablo randomly just becomes this huge monster.
Mm-hmm. It's just some cheesy giant monster. I honestly felt like I was watching a sci-fi movie at that point.
A lot of this movie reminds me and him a Fantastic Four, the reboot.
Yeah, I'll still say Fantastic Four is a little worse than this one, but this was definitely close and definitely reminiscent of it.
Yeah, and so right then El Diablo dies because because they're about to they put like an explosion underneath them.
Oh yeah, and all you had to do to kill these people, to kill these giant, massive, mythical beings, was to put explosive underneath them and just blow. It wasn't even like an atomic bomb. It wasn't even like that big of an explosion because the rest of the squad was in the same building as them, and just like that little tiny explosion, just
yeah,
he's dead.
He's dead. Yeah, and so El Diablo sacrifices himself, and you have like this little scene of redemption of El Diablo, and so also there's a part where there's this extremely ridiculous slow-mo scene that made no sense to be slow-mo. They throw the bomb. They throw this bomb. They have this bomb, and they throw it into the area where Enchantress is, and to destroy her machine or whatever. Right. And usually in a slow-mo scene, they'll have a lot of fight scenes in slow-mo, where they'll have this scene whenever they throw it in there, and Deadshot slowly just shoots it. But in this slow-mo scene, they throw it there. Deadshot picks up his gun and thinks about it for a second. He thinks about it, looks down, sees his daughter, has a conversation with his daughter.
Which, that part didn't even make any sense, because he is shooting his gun to shoot a bomb to save the world. So it makes no sense for his daughter to not want him to do it, because he's freaking saving the world by shooting his gun. Yeah, it's not like he's shooting to kill someone.
Yeah, it's not like he, at the very beginning where he's shooting to kill Batman.
Yeah, he's shooting to save the world.
Yeah, no, don't kill Enchantress. Don't do it. And and so that part, and also he's just having this full-on conversation with his daughter, and even though it's not like a huge conversation, it's still long enough for that bomb to have already dropped and not be able to be seen. And so it just flies, he just screams and shoots it, and it explodes.
I want to back up. One big part I have about this is it doesn't make... Okay, like, I like the idea of Suicide Squad. I like the idea of them, like, choosing, like, super villains to go after this threat. But they made the threat way too big for these characters. Like, all they have is some crazy woman who's the Joker's girlfriend, a guy who can throw boomerangs, which he literally does nothing in the movie other than throw a couple of jokes at. His jokes were actually probably the only funny ones. A guy who can shoot really accurately, which I guess is sort of helpful. A guy who can climb anything.
And he's barely in it at all.
Yeah, a Killer Croc who's sort of strong, I guess, who really doesn't do much in the movie other than throw the bomb at the end of the movie.
And give his cheesy one-liners. The only person that actually has any value is El Diablo.
Yeah, and he doesn't even want to use his power for 90% of the movie.
Yeah.
And so they have these, like... Oh, and Rick Flag, but he's just a normal human. But most of these characters are human. They're normal humans who have really no really special power, to be honest. And it's one of the reasons why I hate Hawkeye and Black Widow and the Avengers, because I hate them going against these big threats like Ultron and Loki and these armies, and they're able to come unscathed, even though they're regular humans. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't like the choice that they had in this movie. Amanda Waller, in the mid-credits scene, it's revealed that she's giving files to Bruce Wayne over info over the Justice League members. The Flash, Aquaman, I don't know if Wonder Woman was in it or not, but Flash and Aquaman were definitely in it. And she obviously knows about Batman, because that's who she sent to... take in Deadshot at the beginning of the movie. But she knows about those three superheroes. Three superheroes that live in today's world. Yet she decides to, instead of going with the Justice League members, she decides that's a better idea to use bad guys who don't really have that much superpowers. So it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's only a few characters that I actually were okay with in this movie. And that my favorite character overall was Rick Flagg's character. I felt like he was a good actor for his character, He portrayed well on kind of the person who doesn't care, but he's kind of dealt with life because of everything that's going on with his girlfriend. And I like his character.
Which I felt like Well, they were originally going with Tom Hardy, which I like Tom Hardy, but I'm not saying it's a bad choice. I forgot the guy's name, but I'm not saying he's a bad choice. But I felt like he could have still beefed up a little. Like I felt like he was a little too skinny, too small to feel the leader of a pack of supervillains. But his acting wasn't that bad actually. I actually liked his acting for the most part, but I feel like he could have beefed up.
Yeah, and then Will Smith's acting, it was okay. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
He's definitely him and Deadshot and Harley Quinn were definitely two of the biggest, best parts of the movie.
Yeah, and so Margot Robbie, I didn't think she did great, but she did okay. She wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning of the movie, she didn't really use her accent that well. Like I felt like towards the middle of the movie to the end of the movie is when she this is my accent I'm going to use. But once she found that accent, it was like the perfect accent.
Yeah.
It wasn't too over the top like the comics. I mean, the cartoon, which the cartoon wasn't really over the top, but for live action, it would have been. So it was like a perfect blend of like actual, like real life and more Harley Quinn. So I felt like she did really good towards the middle of the movie to the end.
With the accent, it's almost like they're like, oh crap, she has an accent, give her one now. You know? And so those are the characters that I liked, and then even Captain Boomerang's character was actually okay.
Yeah, I actually like him, even though he's completely useless. Like even like the only time he actually ever did something was when he threw that boomerang that had a video that had like a camera on it, so they could see it, and then it just shut down immediately. So it's like, oh, I guess I can't do anything anymore. But like he was actually pretty funny though. He had a couple of scenes that were actually made me laugh.
Yeah, so. And then you got Killer Croc hanging out there. You know, terrible choice. Terrible. Oh goodness. Yeah, and so and then you have the scene where, which I actually liked the way this happened. Is one of the few things I actually slightly liked was Harley Quinn tricking Enchantress to an extent. Because I feel like Enchantress may have been able to not have fully been tricked, but I liked it. What it was Enchantress was gonna let all of them live and become part of her team.
Right.
And so Harley Quinn goes up there and she acts like she wants to be part of it, and then she just grabs a knife and slices her heart out, and they destroy it. And so that part was good. But one thing I didn't like was Dr. Moon comes back. Dr. Moon comes back. Enchantress tells him, "Oh, you're never going to see her again," And I feel like Enchantress wouldn't lie about that.
Yeah, no. When she's about to die.
Yeah, I feel like she wouldn't lie about that. Because she was literally begging them to kill her.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Everything was done. It was all destroyed. She was begging them to kill her, and I feel like she wouldn't have lied about the fact that Dr. Moon was not coming back, that she was dead. And so they kill her. They kill Enchantress by crushing her heart, which should have been done a long time ago. But but they crushed her heart, and then she comes back to life, and it's all like, "Oh, well, I miss you so much." Like Rick Flag, not like everybody in the team. Rick Flag went over there and hugged her because he missed her, which is obvious. But it was just so cliched to bring that character, to bring her back.
Yeah, it's not like it's like a big known character that they need to bring back for future movies. Like, and she's not even like a super villain anymore. Like she has no use to any part of the movies later on.
Like, I understand, he's gonna be a little sad that she died, but that's what happens. It's realistic for that character to die.
Yeah, it's character development.
yeah, it's realistic for that character to die. And it was just they just decided to go cliche with it. And then they're all, I think they all want something out of the group, and I can't remember what everybody is. I know Will Smith wants to go see his daughter for like a little bit, and then like Killer Croc wants like a TV or some crap now. And
don't forget BET.
Yeah.
Okay, so another big thing that we didn't like about this movie was the song choices. Now, we're not going to say that we hated the songs. We actually love like 90-95% of the songs that they have in this movie. It's just that they didn't put the songs in the right places in the movies. It felt like some parts were like, okay, let's just pick famous, popular songs and upbeat songs and just put them in this movie, just random scenes. And like they put a song like that every 5 minutes in the movie, and it just became so cheesy and tired. That's like it felt like a music video like a 2-hour long music video.
It's almost like a lot of this movie was like, oh, Batman vs Superman didn't do very good. Oh, this is kind of a crappy movie too. Let's just add as much weird crap, random bright colors, and random choices of music placed in wrong spots. Maybe the audience will like it because we have good songs.
So there's one scene in this movie where Flash. Okay, I know Captain Boomerang is a Flash villain, so they have to have Flash in the movie. But literally, okay, if you've read the comics and you know who Flash is, you know who all these characters are. You probably love this scene. You probably were excited about this scene. It was probably pretty awesome. And I'll admit, it was pretty awesome for me too. But wherever they had Flash, they did a flashback of flashback. They had a flashback of Flash catching Boomerang, and that's how Boomerang is in prison. Was because the Flash caught him stealing or robbing a diamond store or whatever. But all we've seen of the Flash so far is one little tiny clip in a gas station of him stopping a robber. But that's literally all. Like, he's not like an established superhero in this universe. I mean, I know they refer to him as a metahuman, but like, he has a full costume and everything.
You see in the end of this movie that nobody knows who he is yet, really. I mean, Ben Affleck knew because of Batman vs Superman. But they, Amanda Waller gives Ben Affleck, but Bruce Wayne, all the files of these superheroes, and you also
files.
You also see in the trailer that Bruce Wayne introduces himself to the Flash for the first time.
It's not like Flash is like this. I mean, he may be just sort of like how Spider-Man was in Civil War, just some superhero who no one really knows about, sort of like a legend to some people, but like. He's never, like, to the actual, like, audience, he's never introduced, like, at all. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just thrown in there. And, the scene's only, like, for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If it would have been, like, longer to, like, actually fully introduce who he is, that would have been fine. But, like, they just had, like, a 10-second clip, and the Flash had, like, one line. And it was, like, a joke, which I didn't mind, because that's who the Flash is. But, like, he said nothing to introduce himself. It was just, he was there.
And even if it is that thing about, him being a character like Spider-Man in Civil War, they should have had him slightly have the suit like Spider-Man in Civil War, a really crappy suit, and not like a really crappy suit, but the thing is the Flash's suit is full on metal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And something that he would need Bruce Wayne to.
It's high tech, full metal. It's not like it's like a actual like cloth suit. It's full high tech metal, and he had the suit already before meeting Bruce Wayne. I just didn't understand that at all. It didn't make any sense. A lot of this movie, I'm going to say it again, I know I've said this a few times, a lot of this movie does not make sense. I don't know how you can say this is a good, cohesive movie. It doesn't make sense at all.
It felt like it would really stick well with the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin movies because the way they tried so hard to make it so colorful and so upbeat. And that's just not the way it should have been. Like, having Batman in the movie felt so forced because the rest of the movie, the tone was so different than the way Batman should be.
Mm-hmm. And one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this spoiler review is because I've been reading everywhere. Okay, when Batman vs Superman came out, I read tons of people talking crap about that movie. Now, I'm not going to say that movie was nowhere near flawless, okay?
Right, yeah.
But it was a good movie. I liked it. I actually liked that movie. But this movie, I have read tons of places, and I've barely seen any bad reviews over it. Like, anybody talking...
For the audience.
Audience reviews. Like, I go on Facebook or something. I see people talking great about this movie. Like, how do you like this movie?
But hate Batman vs Superman. Yeah. I understand. Okay, there's one scene in Batman vs Superman, the nightmare scene, that sort of fell out of place. But the rest of the movie felt pretty cohesive, and you could understand what was going on. Suicide Squad, they just felt like they placed some scenes. Like, they're like, let's just stick this in here, and maybe it'll make sense. Maybe it'll make sense to people who've read comics, but to the regular, everyday moviegoer, it's not going to make any sense at all what's going on.
And overall, the best thing you can say about this movie, it was actually pretty good in the original cut. Now they decided to. They're like, oh, it's too dark, it's too gritty. They already griped about that Batman vs Superman because apparently they can't take dark movies, so they just took out so much good stuff.
Yeah, no.
So much good stuff, added complexity, added depth, added motion, added actual characterization,
right.
And they took it out and just added in bright colors and pop music and stupid characters, cheesy lines, cheesy jokes. It was so horrible. And the one thing I want to add right now is I, and him too, we do not listen to critic reviews. Okay? I've actually, I was talking to people about this movie, and they're like, oh, well, you just listen to the critic reviews. I don't listen to critic reviews. I hate critics, okay? I hate critic reviews. Also, you can tell that because we like Batman vs. Superman, okay? There's a lot of bad critic reviews over that. And for some reason or another, it was actually almost pretty close to the score of this movie.
Right.
That's why we made this review, to fully explain why we didn't like it instead of just saying that we agree with critics. Because we, you know, this is one of the few times I've actually agreed with critics. You know, it's very, very rare that I agree with critics.
Yeah, I feel like it got the percentage it deserved.
Alright guys, well that is the end of our review. We gave our grades in the last movie, and I also told you what they were at the beginning of the last movie, the last review, the non-spoiler one, and I told you what they were at the beginning of this one, so we're not going to go over that. So yeah.
Although I will say, upon second viewing, it was a more entertaining movie, but I still would say that it's a bad movie overall.
Yeah, so there you go guys. Those are our final thoughts over this movie. I'm so glad that we got to tell you about why we fully hated this movie. Okay, because in the last review we couldn't do that. So glad we could do this time. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, you can go and look at our channel, check out our other videos. And if you're interested, you can go and subscribe. We also have some social media.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're both at Two Awesome Men with the number 2, not the word. So go ahead and follow those and like them and just do whatever you want with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Have some fun with those pages. Yes, thank you. But yeah, thank you so much, and you will see us again later.